Welcome to Real Estate Secrets Unlocked, the podcast that takes you inside the minds of the industry's top professionals, revealing their top secrets to success. I'm your host, Danielle Damiano. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, get ready to learn the latest trends, strategies, and secrets that will help you succeed. Join us as we go beyond the basics and explore what it takes to make it in the world of real estate. So buckle up and get ready for a wild ride. This is Real Estate Secrets Unlocked. Hey everybody, it's Danielle Damiano, and I am here today. I'm so excited with Neil Cresswell, co-founder, CEO of Sellstate, which is a real estate franchise now, located, is it globally or just United States?
No, just in the United States.
United States. Okay. So thank you so much, Neil, for being on. I'm so excited. I've known you forever. I've seen you go from, owning 2 brokerages to now owning a lot of franchises. And so I'm excited for everybody to kind of hear your story. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So why don't we start out by, you got started in the business in Canada. And I'm just curious how you got started in real estate, because it wasn't real estate that you were first, once you were an adult, you were doing other things, right, before real estate.
Yeah, I think everybody's been doing something, their career prior to real estate. I grew up in Canada, and I started off in the mines, actually working in the mines in Northern Ontario. Uranium Mines, not a very fun job. Although I always had that entrepreneurial spirit, much more than I think a lot of my coworkers. So I wanted to do better. When I quit that job, everybody thought I was absolutely crazy. Why would you quit? Because I had actually a good job. I was a millwright by trade, and supposed to be a good job, high paying for that category. I was still a pretty young kid, and I said I was going to get into real estate, not knowing anything about real estate, but not real estate sales. I started off as buying and selling investment properties. So I started off working, 16 hours a day, buying my first little duplex and fixed it up, slept on the floor, painted it, did all those things, sold it, made some money. And within a year, I was moving a lot for a young kid. I was moving, anywhere from 8 to 15 homes a year.
Wow.
I found a little niche. We're all looking for niches in Canada. I found this niche. If I bought a building that had a basement that was unfinished, I could put an apartment in it and really increase the value dramatically. It cost me $20,000 for the apartment. It would increase the value $40,000. And before you know it, I was making more on one flip than I did in a year working at the mines.
That's awesome.
So that's where I started my path in real estate. So I was just buying.
So young kid, how young were you?
In my early 20s.
Early 20s.
I was in my early 20s. So I started doing that and did very well. I decided to get my real estate license because I was spending so much money in commissions. I was, moving a lot of properties. I had a great realtors that I was working with. So I never had any intention of selling real estate as a typical realtor. I figured I'm going to have my license. I was typically almost identifying my own properties because my realtors gave me access to the MLS at that point. Believe it, in those days, we still actually had MLS books we used to identify properties with. We didn't have the computers. So I got my license so I could buy and sell my own real estate and save the commission, because it was costing me probably almost over $100,000 in commissions.
Right.
So I got my license, and I stopped flipping properties pretty quickly. I got my realtor's license. I got so into the real estate sales because I really, really focused on studying, and I became a master very quickly. Some people have heard my story, but I traveled and I visited the highest producing agents in the nation. I did a lot of research and studied them. And literally within my first couple of months, I was the #1 agent in the city. I was selling a lot of real estate, and I started off to a bang. So I was making so much money in sales. I did not want to get back into flipping real estate. I hired an assistant at a very early part of my career because I realized to leverage myself, I needed people. And that's kind of where it started.
So tell me, what were some of the activities that you were doing or that you noticed that other high producing agents were doing in order to help you kind of get off the ground and grow so quick?
Well, the #1 thing, and a lot of people miss this. It's simple. It's education. Knowledge is power. So I spent more time on educating, becoming a master than I did at actually tasks. So for example, prospecting, cold calling. I became a master at for sale by owners on the phone. I became a master at expired listings. I can get in the door every time. I could get in the door to this day, super easy. So I ask agents, hey, how many listing appointments did you go on today? And they or this week, and many of them say, well, I went on one, or oftentimes they'll say none. I said, how crazy is that? Pick up the phone, and if you know how to get in the door, I'm sure you could book yourself, 3 or 4 listing appointments today, right? And if you could keep on doing that every day, you're going to get listings. So I became a master at that. Next thing, I mastered my listing presentation.
Yeah.
I researched the experts. I bought presentations. I spent a lot of time. So I spent most of my time on bettering myself. So my biggest investment was in me. So once I learned those skills, it became very easy. When I drove, you drive by and you see a for sale by owner, and I ask realtors, like, do you ever drive by a house and you see a for sale by owner sign in the yard? And everybody does that. But how many stop every single time?
Exactly.
Well, tell me something, Danielle. If you drove by that house, instead of a for sale sign, what you saw was a stack of $100 bills, maybe about this high in the driveway. Would you stop?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I saw. Because I knew if I stopped at that for sale by owner, I had about an 80% chance of getting that listing. And I had about an 80% chance of that listing selling. So it's pretty easy money. But see, that came from confidence. How did I have so much confidence? From knowledge, right?
Well, one
knowledge
of the things
is
that
confidence.
you said, and I want to kind of go back here for a second, because the very first thing that you said was education, right? And
Absolutely.
So education is what got you, so quickly, but education combined with action is actually how do you grow so quick? Because what a lot of people do is they feel like they have to be perfect before they pick up the phone. They have to know their scripts. They have to know their objections. They have to have the perfect listing presentation before they go on that listing. And so they have analysis paralysis, so they don't take action, and they spend too much time in education. So one of the things that you pointed out was that education in yourself, obviously, which is huge, but that education was combined with taking massive action. And that's where the real growth comes in.
Absolutely. You know what? You're 100% right, because, and I guess I forgot to mention that, but part of the education process actually doing how I became an expert at making these phone calls was not practicing. It was my practicing was picking up the phone and failing. Like by making those phone calls and getting the rejections, the horrible listing presentations. I totally remember my first listing presentation. It was such a flop, right? And then I refined it, and it got better and better and better. So you're 100% right. And also tenacity and volume, where you're saying, okay, well, how much time are you actually spending doing these actions, right? So it's a combination of both.
And visualizing and understanding, like you said, the for sale by owner. How many times, and I say this to people that I'm coaching, when you see a for sale by owner, are you stepping on the brake or are you stepping on the gas? Because a lot of times people step on the gas because it's like, I know I should stop. I know I should stop. I know I should stop, but they don't. So visualizing those dollar signs, like that's money. Yeah. And not only is it money for you, it's money for them because they need you. They need you to help them.
Absolutely. And they list, right? We know it's statistically, it's 80% of them list. We know that they list. I think those numbers are even higher than that now. So we know, and same with expired listings, right? So those are, and for us, for realtors, used to excuse, well, so many realtors call them. That's not true. Are you kidding? Many realtors call one time. Very few realtors follow up, right? 2, 3, 4 times, calls, visits, emails. So it's a process, right? I made sure every consumer I was going after physical expired, I touched them 3 times a week. 1 call, 1 email, and 1 visit. So 3 times a week. If it took them 3 weeks to make that decision, I've touched them 9 times. Most agents touch them once.
Well, and I think what it boils down to, and we all know that the money is in the follow-up. A lot of people don't follow up. And a lot of people, like you said, they make the calls, but they don't follow up. And the reason why they don't follow up is they don't have a follow-up system in place.
You know what? I was going to say, you stole the words out of my mouth, right? It's a system, right? It all comes down to systems. I did so well with my for sale by owner system that it would bring, I got a lot of listings with it. And I got so good at it. What I did is I hired an agent on my team. And this is where I started my first team is, I hired an agent. I put that agent on a 50-50 split. And I got that agent to run my for sale by owner program. That for sale by owner program brought me on average, what that agent was bringing me about 4 listings a month, about a listing a week, right? And beyond honest with you, they weren't working that hard. It's not a hard system. It
Right.
wasn't hard to do. So you can imagine. So now I got an agent doing 4 listings a week for me. I'm like, wow, now a 50-50 split. So that's pretty easy. Well, maybe I could hire 2, maybe I could hire 3, maybe I could hire 4. Before you know it, I had 15 of them.
I love
Realtors.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's your mind thinking of passive income, because you're no longer trading time for money.
Exactly.
Right? You have people doing that for you. So then talk to me a little bit, what made you, so this is in Canada, you're a real estate agent, you're crushing the FSBOs, expireds, whatever, prospecting, I'm assuming cold calling and door knocking.
Yep.
Okay.
Not door. I didn't door knock, no, but
Okay.
it just took too much time.
Yeah. So cold calling. And then you decided at that point to open your own brokerage.
Correct. Yeah, correct. It was just, I was always an entrepreneurial spirit. I wanted to open up my own brokerage to have more control over my destiny. Of course, to save a little bit in commission, although I was on a pretty good split, wasn't costing me a lot of money. So it wasn't as much as where most people or many people open up a brokerage, say, well, I want to open a brokerage because I don't want to pay my broker. And nowadays, I think you're going to get 90% commission most places you go. So I think a broker is pretty inexpensive to work for. I wanted to leverage myself, and I knew the only way to leverage myself was through hiring people. Danielle, there was exercise I took, and I still remember as a young kid, young real estate agent, I bought into my first brokerage. I'd only been 6 weeks in the business. So this process went pretty quick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it went pretty quickly. So, and I couldn't be a broker at that time. So I bought in as a partner in my first real estate brokerage. But when I saw the real estate brokerage business, I was amazed. I was this entrepreneur, and I looked at opening many different restaurants. My friend and I, we were going to open up a restaurant, and it was massive overhead and huge carrying costs and lots of staffing and just big commitments on big leases. And it was scary. To coffee shops or whatever I was looking at. Then I looked at a brokerage, and I honestly, I couldn't believe it. I said, I could go out, you're kidding, and hire 100 people, and I don't have to pay them. And they work for me, and I could build this business. And the other thing about a real estate brokerage business, if you look at it compared to almost any business in the world, most businesses, to drive more revenue to your profit, drive more revenue, you have to increase your expenses. And that's, if you look at a graph, right, you increase your expenses and then you'll drive revenue. But the real estate brokerage isn't like that. You can open up a brokerage and say your expenses are $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month. Well, that's whether you have 5 agents or 95 agents. Right. Your expenses don't change that much as you start adding people into your brokerage. So when I saw this model, I said, geez, I could hire all these people for free. They're not going to cost me necessarily any more money because I already had an assistant. So I already had that admin front desk person. They were already working for me anyways. So, and I already had a little office space. So I'm saying, how much more is it going to cost me to add these agents? So I started doing that. And that's where I really learned on how to truly leverage myself, is through the brokerage.
So now when you opened your first brokerage, it was in Canada. Were you producing broker, or like,
Absolutely.
were you producing? Okay, so you're producing.
Super. I was a mega agent. I was one of the highest producing agents in the entire nation. So I was a mega agent. And I also had the single highest producing brokerage in my city. Wow. So a lot of people are saying, oh, well, they worry about a competitive broker. My agents, even when I moved to Florida, they always used it to their advantage because I was one of the highest producing agents in the nation. They said, well, if you list with me, Neil Cresswell's my broker, he's probably going to sell it. Right. So, right. And I never competed. Of course, I never competed with my agents. Countless times I went to listing presentations, and I heard that, one of my agents had been there. Well, if I could close the listing, I would close the listing for that agent. I would never steal it. Right. I would never do that. Right. You wouldn't do that.
Less work for you too. Let them have the listing.
Right. Of course. I would never do that. So, and it was, so as a competitive broker, brokers, most brokers, if they sell, they're not competitive with their agents. Right. They're enhancing their agent's business is what the idea is.
So then what made you decide to move to Florida? So you're like crushing it in Canada. You're married at the time, have kids.
Yeah.
Family.
So, and I was involved in a lot. I had a big business. I owned 3, big health clubs. I owned hundreds of apartments. I had a lot of businesses that I was involved in at this point. My real estate brokerage I had a half a dozen of those. I was a partner, a regional owner, and a national franchise. So there's a lot of irons in the fire. But I found because the economy in Canada is very small, it was very difficult to make money. To give you an example, there's less than half of the realtors in the entire country in Canada than there are in the state of Florida.
Oh, wow.
There's this, if I go from Miami, I think to West Palm Beach, there's more realtors than there are in the entire nation in Canada. So as an economy is based, so it's easier to make money the larger the economy is. So the Canadian economy is so small. I had real estate brokerages that I owned that I had to drive. It took me 5 hours to get there. Like it was just, it was hard business. So that was one of my decisions. Hey, and I love Florida. Are you kidding? Like, beautiful sunshine, nice beaches. I love boating, palm trees. I came from Northern Ontario. I just talked to my friend of mine today. It's minus 18 there today. So it's not, well, it wasn't hard.
And very similar to what happened to me when I was living in Southwest Florida and moved to Miami, it's once you know the hustle, once you know how to generate business, once you know that you can prospect, you can go anywhere and you're going to make it happen. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than you expect, but you knew that if you move to Florida, it's only a matter of time for you to start generating business. So Absolutely. Now when you moved, did you sell everything and go all in Florida?
Everything. I went all in. Yeah, I went all in. I sold everything. My wife and 2 children, we jumped in a car and I rented a place. I came down here and, funny story, my father-in-law was really upset at me and he sat me down and berated me basically for 2 hours because I was moving. I was taking his grandchildren, which he loved. I'm moving to Florida, a long way away from where we were. And he thought I was insane. He said, what is the matter with you? He said, you're the most successful business person I know. You have the big houses and the vacations and the fancy cars. And, you're so successful and you're going to give everything up and you're going to go to Florida. You don't know a soul. You don't know anything. And you're going to start all over again. He says, I think you're absolutely crazy. He said, who knows what's going to happen? And I looked at him after 2 hours of hearing this. I looked at him in the eye and I said, his name was Dick. It was quite appropriate, actually. I said, Dick, I said, what do you think? I said, do you think I got here because I was lucky? He said, well, no, you're smart and you're a hard worker. I said, exactly. It's going to be easier when I go down to Florida. And it was. So I've done enough seminars in Canada. I did public speaking up there as well. And I would tell realtors, and every realtor that's listening, I swear this is true, that if you're a great realtor, and you know what you're doing, if you know how to list, you know how to sell, and you know how to prospect, I could drop you in any city in America. And within a week, you're going to be one of the top agents. Within a month, you'll be the top agent in the office. And within 3 months, you'll be just rocking. So I think I said that so many times that I believed it myself. And I came down to Florida. My first year in the state of Florida, I had no friends, I had no family. I did not know property values. I could tell you funny stories that I was calling it for sale by owner and I listed it in Gateway. I thought I was in a different city because I was in Fort Myers. And my first year, I closed $100 million in real estate, my first 12 months in the state of Florida. My first 14, no, that's 2 weeks. So my first less than 3 weeks since I got my license in May. It was about May the 10th or 12th. By the 31st or 30th of May, I had already 9 listings.
Wow, that's awesome.
That was with Century 21 Birchwood. If any of those agents that are listening might have still been there, they know that day because they called me in the office to host one of their meetings. And because they wanted to talk to this Canadian guy, brand new guy in town, didn't know anybody, got 9 listings in like less than 2 weeks. And everybody wanted to know what I did. So everybody shows up at this meeting. They had over 100 of the agents show up. Joe and Bartolo was a broker in those days. And I walked into that meeting. I had my hands in my pocket and they were all waiting to hear my secret magic. And I said, I call for sale by owners and expired listings.
And you didn't pay a dime. And that's the thing. A lot of people think, they get all these listings because they spend all this money on marketing. It was your hard work. It was picking up the phone and doing the work because you didn't know anybody. You didn't have a base or a database. Right.
Yeah, and eventually, trust me, eventually I took those revenues that I generated, I invested wisely into marketing, and the phone started ringing because of the marketing, but yeah, it started with prospecting.
I love it. So now you're in Florida a couple of years. When did you open your first brokerage? And was it Sellstate?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was Sellstate. So that was the goal, was always to open up a national franchise. I was involved in a national franchise in Canada. I wanted to do that down here. The company I was with did not want to expand into the United States. So I wanted to open up I wanted to open up my own national franchise. So it was Sellstate. I had to start off. It took me 2 years to get my broker's license. So that's how long. I moved here about 2000. By 2002, I was able to incorporate Sellstate, open up the first office then, and incubated it a little bit. I think by about 2004, I started with my first franchise, and by 2006, they were flying off the shelf. Although my timing was perfect, because guess what happened in 2007?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So in
Yeah.
Sellstate, when you opened Sellstate was your idea. It was not a franchise that you bought into. It was basically your baby that you started off the ground.
Exactly, yes.
And so I think it's so interesting because a lot of people will start as an agent and then they'll say, okay, next is going to be my broker's license. And then they'll open up a brokerage mainly to, do their own deals or sometimes grow a brokerage. You very rarely hear, especially in the real estate business, because there's all of the, big franchises, Remax, this, that, the other thing, of somebody starting a business with the idea to start a franchise. So what was your thought process with that?
Well, it's because that was my background in Canada, though. See, I was a regional owner, partial regional owner of a national franchise in Canada. So I've already had the scent from selling real estate franchises and helping brokers build their business. So I knew what it took, and I enjoyed that end of the business. I really liked working with brokers and help them build their brokerage. I'll tell you, so myself as a young broker, I bought into a franchise. It was called Sutton Group in Canada. And there's no question that if I don't think for 1 second I would have had near the success if I didn't buy that franchise. The franchise gave me the ability to really focus on building my business while they provided me with all the tools and the support that I needed to grow and leverage and scale it. If I would have had, like many people, I hate to say it, but kind of a closed mind saying, well, no, I don't want to give any money to the franchisee or the franchisor and buy into that, I never would have accomplished what I did. But right. So for me, I totally believed in the system. So when I came down to Florida, in the day that I came in 2000, my model was somewhat available in Canada. There was nothing like it in the United States. So I figured I'd just start our own.
I love it. And so a franchise is essentially a business in a box. I mean, that's the thing. When you get into your own business, you have so many things that you have to worry about, whether it's a CRM or marketing or lead gen or logos or this or that. And so you basically are creating all of that for somebody to just come in, adopt your model, and then they can hit the streets running, building their business and not have to worry about all of this extra stuff.
I think it's a lot more than that. That's what most people think, but really where the essence, I think the importance, like I look back now at what Sellstate as a franchise offers to our clients. And it's, so for example, we have KV Core and we have the highest level of KV Core that you can possibly buy. Every single agent gets that for free. Well, if you were a realtor and go buy that, Danielle, that would cost $600 a month. So if you're a broker and trying to buy that for your agents, good luck. How are you going to, especially now with the low fees, right? So we provide that to all the agents, right? All the support, all the training, all those things. So when you take a look at the value, it's a lot more than just buying this thing in the box. It's like, I'm getting value. I'm getting all of these tools that if I bought them on my own, it would have cost me X, but now I get these tools through Sellstate, and collectively, because we can buy on such massive volume, we get a better deal. Right. So those sort of things really enhance. And now the next thing is about training. So ask a realtor. So we talked about for sale by owners and expired listings. Okay, great. Well, open up a brokerage. Last night, I had a conversation with one of our brokers and we were talking about this, and I'm saying, and he hasn't been growing the way he should be because he hasn't been prospecting for realtors. And that's all he has to do. Focus on growing his business. The first Sellstate office. And if you just can imagine, for the realtors that are listening, how to scale your business. I opened up the first Sellstate office and I hired just over 100, probably about 110 people in my first 6 months. So let's do the math. I hired about 110 people and they were probably, that was in 2002, they would close about 80 transactions. My money was skinny. I was making maybe $800 a deal. So 80 transactions, $800 deals, $64,000 a month in revenue. My expenses might've been 14 grand a month because I had a manager, front desk admin. So say I netted $50,000 a month, $600,000 a year. Okay. Let's just say that's about what that business might've been generating. Well, if you did that sort of thing, what would the value of that business be if you want to sell it? What would a business that brought you in $600,000 a year in revenue, what would that be worth if you wanted to sell it?
Probably double, right?
Well, you have a pretty good business.
Right.
So as a realtor, if you work for 6 months, could you make $1 million? Pretty tough. And I'm not saying every broker can do it, but I think it's a lot more probable scaling a business than trying to do it in sales. And that's why I've always had a passion for the brokerage business, because it is a business. So you can go out and hire, you don't have to hire 100 people. Listen, go hire 20 good people.
Right.
And then you go sell real estate, do what you're doing right now. They will enhance your business. They will build your brand, and you'll earn some revenue off them that maybe will help your life improve. Maybe it will pay for your assistant. Maybe it will just give you some more time off with your family and things like that. So you don't have to have this, grandeur thing where I'm going to hire 100 agents or build multiple offices. Go hire 10 or 20 people to work together as an amazing team, and you'll benefit from that. So everybody has different levels.
Absolutely. And honestly, out of everybody that I've, met, you're the one person that I've seen scale so much, because a lot of times, you could have had the thought process, I'm going to come down here, I'm going to get started as an agent, get my feet, off the ground, and then invest in a franchise similar to like what you did in Canada. But
Right.
You said, I'm going to literally build this franchise and build the systems and the processes and everything the way you want to build it, and then grow and scale, which is the ultimate way, right? Because anybody can buy a franchise or buy several franchises, but to take what you've done and really build it out and grow and scale and have as many as you do is incredible. So how many franchises do you have right now?
I think we're sitting about 80 franchises today.
80 franchises. Any, do you think about going into other countries, or always going to stay?
Yeah, we will. Oh no, we will absolutely go international. It's just a matter of the right people, right? So what grows any business is people. So when the right people approach us on an international basis, wherever they are from in the world, we're ready for it. Our Sellstate is a very strong company as far as financially strong, and our systems are very strong. So it'd be very simple for us to scale anywhere we want in the world right now.
Right.
So we're ready. We just have to have the right people right now.
So what is your model? Like, what is the Sellstate model? Do you want to share that with people on why the Sellstate model is a little bit different?
So it's a high commission model, which I think is essential to hire quality agents. So we're all about quality of people, even though I talk about these big numbers, but for a number of agents, but really what's important to Sellstate is more the quality. And so we've been known to that, and that gives our brokers a lot of strength. So we have better quality people. How do we get them? Well, we offer them, first off, we pay them well, right? We have high commission. We have the #1 technology platform in the industry that we provide to all our agents. And then we offer a really amazing level of support with them. Now, the other thing that we have that's totally unique, and in the industry it's getting more familiar, is our revenue sharing. So we have a revenue sharing program that's really unique. And I know not every company, but Keller Williams has their revenue sharing, and EXP has their revenue sharing. And we examined all the revenue sharing programs in the industry until we built Sellstate. And Sellstate is a really simple system. And why it works so well is because it's not as expensive as some of the other ones. So, because it all comes off the commission, right? So if Keller Williams uses 10% of their money goes towards their profit sharing, which it does, well, where's that 10% come from? Well, it has to come from the agent's commission. That's the only thing we have in real estate is our commission. So we got 100% commission, we start trimming it off. So we have a program that goes more directly to the agents, and they benefit from it. So it enhances a broker's ability to grow. It enhances our realtors. So if you're just a realtor and saying, listen, I don't want to grow brokerage, our numbers actually work. It's really simple. You get 5% of the gross commission of any agent you bring into the business. I know brokers that don't net 5% on their brokerages. So you go bring 10 agents in and you take 5% of their gross commission, you start doing the math, it could be pretty profitable, right? So that's what makes us unique, right? We're still high commission. We still have a revenue sharing program. And then we offer this super high level technology platform that they're not paying for. So a lot of people look at our model and say, okay, so how do we stay in business? And that's no exaggeration. One of our most common questions is that, like, okay, so how do you do it? How do you stay in business? And it's beautiful that so many realtors are so concerned about our bottom line, but we do quite well actually, because we do it on volume.
Yeah, and you do have some of the best of the best. I mean, that's really important to have, producing agents that want to be there, want to do the work. So now what is your role? So you went from, agent to broker to franchise owner. What is your role in the business now?
So I sit on the board of directors now. So I'm out of operations 100% now. I sit on the board of directors. We do a meeting, myself and my business partner, Art Darmanin, do a meeting with the CEO once every 3 months. We watch the numbers, and we're always there to support and to support our CEO. But that's basically my level. So I'm kind of, I'd like to say I'm retired right now. I don't do any real estate anymore. Matter of fact, it was a little bit challenging for me to get ready for this Zoom meeting today, because I used to do several of these a day, and I haven't done one for a long time. So I am officially retired now. Like I said, I sit on a board of directors, do a meeting every quarter, but that's about it.
I love it. And I mean, it's truly passive income. You're no longer trading your time for money. I mean, everything is passive now. So have you thought about what your next venture would be, or you're just going to lay on the beach in Florida? And
My wife and I, we love travel. So we've been traveling a lot. We're going to continue traveling. We have beautiful children and grandchildren now. So I love spending time with them. I'm a real estate guy, so I'm always going to do something, but for me, it's nothing major, something to keep me busy, to get me out of the house once in a while. So that's just investment. So, I'm doing some investing. I have a passion for automobiles. So that consumes a lot of my time. I'm into exotic cars, and the market's been great. I've been able to make a little bit of money as a side hustle on that. So that's about it. I'm just doing fun stuff now.
Oh, that's awesome. So what advice would you have for any new agent looking to get started in real estate? And what also advice would you have for any agent that's, let's say, a team, right, doing 50 million a year that's looking to grow and scale?
Okay, so for the new agent, it always comes down to the basics, right? So for that new agent, they have to focus on becoming a master. And it's simple as that. Like, so you need to figure out how to become that master, but you have to be the #1 listing agent in your marketplace, the #1 prospector in your marketplace. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. Be the best prospector. If you sat in front of a computer, because now it's so easy. There's so much educational tools available to you on YouTube and through various platforms. A lot of different trainers. That 3 months you should be a master at prospecting, and you do the same on your listing presentation. And then you take it to the next level. You start investing in marketing, right? So you're going to become a master at Instagram and social media and all those sort of things. I always like to compartmentalize it, take the most important things first, prospecting, then your presentation has to be down pat, and then we'll get into marketing. And if you compartmentalize your business as a new agent, say, I'm going to spend my first 6 months going hard at this, 50, 60 hours a week at these compartments, so that I know in 6 months I'm going to be a master at presentations, prospecting, and marketing. You're going to have a great year and a great career. For the teams, you got to talk to Sellstate. And I'm just saying, I'm saying that, but you got to build a brokerage. Doing a team under a traditional brokerage, and I face this all the time, and for me, it's so frustrating. Because sometimes I talk to these great teams, they're doing $50 million in production and they're working for another broker, and I don't get it. I don't understand why they do it. And it's not about the money. Remember what I said earlier? It's not about saving money because you open up your own brokerage. It's about having control and being able to scale. That's why you need to do your own brokerage. And it's amazing how your mind will shift. So when you go on that team, right? When I was that team, and I had a very successful one of the top teams in Canada and in the United States, but let's talk as a young guy in Canada. When I switched that to be a broker, your mind switches too. And you don't realize it until you make the switch. So when you're operating in that team environment, I'm thinking about listings and I'm thinking about all those real estate related tasks. When I opened up my brokerage, my mind shifted and I started thinking about leveraging through other people and recruiting and helping drive production and those sort of things. So your mind shifted so that ability to scale became a lot easier, but you have to make the switch first.
Well, and I think a lot of it goes back to that Robert Kiyosaki book, Cash Flow Quadrant, when he talks about, the different types of roles that people have in a business. When you're in that team environment, you're the employee still. I mean, if you're not there, right, doing the activities, your business doesn't run. And so where the role you're in now is essentially that investor role, right? But if you're growing a brokerage, you're switching to, you don't have to physically be there, and that business will still run with or without you. And that is my, in my opinion, where you're at right now is the ultimate freedom, right? It's not about the money. I actually have like this thing on my wall that says, it's not the money that I'm after, it's freedom to do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to physically be somewhere, which is awesome.
But Danielle, you don't have to do what I did, right? So, and I'm fortunate, and maybe I'm a little bit different cat, but the reality is this. I remember when I relatively new in Florida and I had my first brokerage going. And so I had it set up, I don't know, 12 months, right? So I went out and it was me that I had to get it started. Like, it's hard to find builders. I'm the builder. But once it's built, managing and running, it's not that hard. So I had it built. So within 12 months, I have a full-time manager, I have my full-time admin. The machine is running. People are doing the marketing, they're running the teams, everything's good. There's no job left after a year for Neil. So I'm on vacation with my wife in the Bahamas, and I'm on my boat. And I'm calling the office every day. I'm calling, hey, how's it going? What's the numbers like? And every day I'm calling my manager and ask how it's going. And finally my manager said, Neil, stop. Like, we are doing better without you. This are the listings. This is how many sales are coming. This is what's going. They said, please just stop calling. You're bugging us. Like, not to be rude, but we don't need. And I sat back, and matter of fact, so my manager said, why not, Neil? Why don't you stay another week? And I'm like, what? I thought it was so important, but you realize I wasn't that important. And as that happened, I talked to my wife, and I did stay another week. And I realized at that point where it actually hit me, and that wasn't Neil Sellstate. That was my first brokerage, just running the first Sellstate brokerage. And I said, you know what? And I should have done it. I was so stupid, Danielle. I could have retired 20 years ago, right? Because with that brokerage, it brought great revenue. I was making good money. I didn't have to work anymore. I could have stopped right there and been very comfortable for the rest of my life. So you don't have to, have 100 offices or thousands of agents, right? So I did it at that point. So finally, even within Sellstate, you have to get to a point in your business. At Sellstate, my business partner and I looked at each other and said, we're employees in our own company. So all we had to do is replace us. We probably weren't the best employees. We were overpaid and underworked. So we found younger, smarter people to take over our positions, and we retired.
I love it. That's awesome. Such an amazing story. That starts with education, doing the work, hustle, putting systems in place, which is huge. Automation, never giving up despite booms and bust markets. Yep. And now look at your life, right? So that's awesome.
Things are good.
Yeah, it's awesome. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited. Sellstate, Neil, all of the information is going to be in this video. And I can't wait for people to listen, because it's just an awesome story. When I said I was starting my podcast, I was like, Neil Cresswell, #1 person I have to have on there.
Well, I congratulate you, Danielle. You've contributed so much to our industry. You're amazing at your job, right? You are my savior as far as mortgages go, right? Which we know stories behind that. But you do so much to help the industry. And I want to congratulate you and thank you, because it's people like you that propel our industry in the direction it needs to go. So you've been doing a great job. And that's why I felt so fortunate to be able to be on this with you today.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. No, it was awesome. There's so much value here, so much information that a ton of people are going to get a lot out of it. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.
Well, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Real Estate Secrets Unlocked. Don't forget to subscribe to our show on your favorite platform, and we would love your feedback. Check us out on social and let me know what topics you want more of. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and our show. I'm your host, Danielle Damianov, and until next time, stay motivated, stay excited, and keep growing in this crazy world of real estate. Thanks for listening to Real Estate Secrets Unlocked.